G'day, g'day. Long time no see. I've got a couple of clips lined up that I'd like to share with some people. So bear with me and we'll get straight into it. It's a clip from Blair Cottrell. I think he's got a very important message to share. And after I play this clip, we'll discuss it.
Picture this. Your country is overwhelmed by immigration and poor leadership. There's rampant crime, there's terrorism, and housing is completely unaffordable. You'll never own a home like your parents did. And it's really not even safe to just go for a walk in the streets where you grew up. But the presiding government ignores the problems and just keeps doing what the money tells them to do. So you and your mates get together and you start talking about how to solve some of these problems. But you realize to have a lasting impact, you need a political party. You need to contest elections and win some seats in parliament. You start by making some videos online, you host some protests, some meetings, and your message is really resonating with the people. Within a year, you've got almost 2,000 members signed on, and many more supporters, more than enough to register a party with the Electoral Commission. Your plan is to halt immigration, which will instantly drop the price of property and rent. You want to restore national manufacturing, get our oil refineries going again, and put the Australian people, the original working class, first. But then early one morning, riot police kick your door in. They drag you out of bed and say you're a member of a prohibited hate group and you're under arrest. You ask them what that means and what crime you've committed, but they don't answer you. They don't actually know what you did or didn't do. They're just on orders to arrest you. And the truth is you didn't do anything. You haven't actually broken any laws. The problem is your political party just got made illegal. In the weeks following, all your party members are arrested. Because while you were trying to register your party, the presiding government used a new law which allows them to ban political parties on the basis that those parties are hateful. Some of your members do deals with cops to stay out of prison. Others go to jail for 10 or 15 years. That's the end of your party, and you're in jail for the foreseeable future. That might sound crazy. Like that could only happen in some banana republic or a very corrupt third world country. But as of January this year, the Australian government can and has been doing this. On May 15th of this year, Foreign Minister Tony Burke used new laws rushed through Parliament after the Bondi terror attack to ban the White Australia Party as a prohibited hate group. Now, the government in Australia hasn't tried to do anything like this in a long time. Back in 1951, Prime Minister Robert Menzies tried to make a law to ban the Communist Party of Australia. But the High Court stepped in and said, you can't just ban political parties. That basically violates everything we stand for as a democracy. Menzies wasn't ready to give up, though. He put a referendum to the people seeking public support to ban the Communist Party, but the people refused. The public wasn't too keen on communism, but they still agreed that banning political parties was undemocratic, so the precedent was set. Outlawing political parties wasn't allowed. Back to the present day, the White Australia Party obviously had nothing to do with the Bondi terror attack, but they've been outlawed as a hate group anyway, based on laws that were made immediately after that terror attack and as a consequence of that attack. How does banning the White Australia Party stop terrorism? It doesn't at all. The government is just set on banning certain political parties. But why? Well, new political parties are rising all across the West, opposing mass immigration and vowing to undo the damage former governments have done to their own nations. These new parties are generating huge amounts of support. Ever since social media changed the way we access information and the kind of information we can see, old governments or the traditional two-party voting systems have never been more unpopular. Basically, people's eyes are wide open now, especially after COVID. The traditional major parties of the West have really fallen out of favour with the people and they're on the way out. But in Australia, the presiding government has created a scheme for clinging to power in a way which really steamrolls our national constitution and essentially amounts to treason. It's a very simple three-step scheme: immigration to replace the existing voter base, censorship to stop you from talking about it, and banning political parties so there's no way we can vote them out. The laws they just rushed through at the start of 2026 are called Combating Anti-Semitism, Hate and Extremism Bill. They allow the government to ban political parties and jail their political opponents for up to 15 years. And they've done this in spite of the legal precedent set by the High Court in 1951. It's like they don't even care what the federal court says. But here's the crazy part. No one in a party that's being banned needs to have committed any actual crimes. The presiding government only needs to be satisfied that the targeted party's members have engaged in hateful conduct, even if that hateful conduct was years in the past. What is hateful conduct? The definition is loose. It's basically whatever the government decides it wants hateful to mean. The meaning of hate in the context of this law is almost entirely subjective, meaning it doesn't have a strong fixed definition. And they've used this term deliberately so they can flexibly apply this law to any group or party the government wants to cancel. So when you hear government ministers talk about hate or even hate crime, that's not a term referencing any legitimate criminal activity. It can mean pretty much anything. You can say something that challenges government policy in a way which embarrasses a certain minister, and they can decide you're guilty of a hate crime. Any group you're involved in, even loosely, you don't have to be a direct member. Any group you're associated with can be outlawed as a hate group on the basis of your comments or your conduct, which doesn't even have to be criminal. It doesn't matter if the group we're talking about is a registered political organization or religious group. There's no legal protections here. Now, I'm not someone who tries to drum up outrage for clicks. I'm not trying to sell you a t-shirt. I'm trying to tell you that if you're Australian like me, we're in a lot of trouble here. The major parties in our country have exploited terrorism to make a deal to cancel democracy so we can't vote them out. Until this year, every Australian citizen had the right to register political parties, contest elections, and vote for a party of their choosing, but that just got cancelled. While the media talks about taxes and the definition of a woman, your right to fully participate in politics, express yourself freely, and vote the way you choose to vote just got shut down. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to Australia. And no one's talking about it because the government has deliberately misframed it as banning Nazis. But they're lying, because this law isn't actually about banning Nazis. This is about cancelling your right to contest elections, forge new political parties, and vote freely. The Labor Party is using anti-Nazi moral hysteria to try to prevent people from understanding or criticising this new law. If you don't like the hate group law, then you must be a Nazi. That's what they're trying to imply. But isn't the whole reason Nazis are even considered bad is because they ban political parties and try to eradicate certain people and ideologies? So what, to fight Nazis, the government needs to do exactly what Nazis did historically? And the White Australia Party was trying to participate in politics legally through a registered political party. So even if they are Nazis, whatever that even actually means these days, they were forced to operate within a certain legal framework, which prevented violence and extremism, which is the whole point of democracy. But that framework is now gone, which obviously encourages political violence. And what happens when thousands of White Australia members and supporters retreat to One Nation, which they're currently doing since their original party was banned? Well, then the government can just ban One Nation as well, on the basis that its new members and associates are guilty of hate. And there's no realistic way for One Nation to protect itself from this outcome. Even if they shut down their branches and introduce strict vetting process, people are going to slip through the cracks, and someone will have done something the government decides is hateful at some point in the past. The government will try to ban One Nation next, and any of its major contenders. One Nation really has no choice but to demand these laws are repealed immediately and campaign on that basis. Because even if One Nation or other political parties are not banned immediately on the basis of this law, the threat of a ban will constantly loom overhead, coercing the way these parties behave and forcing them into deals they otherwise wouldn't have done. Any political party which expects to participate in politics independently and forge its own policies freely has to contest the next election purely on the grounds of repealing these new laws. If these laws stand, they allow the government to ban any political party without any due process and no criminal convictions required. Constitutional legal expert Dr. Anne Twomey just 3 days ago sounded the alarm, using her YouTube channel to warn Australia that the government has implemented these laws to set a precedent for banning political parties to preserve its position and cancel its opponents. As long as this hate group law exists, there's literally no point in voting and no political solution. Former White Australia Party member Thomas Sewell has applied for an emergency injunction at the High Court, which was accepted and is scheduled for a hearing in September to try to fight these laws. But you don't need to support Thomas Sewell or Thomas Sewell's ideology directly in order to understand the severity of these laws and oppose them. Every Australian with a brain has a moral duty to oppose these laws. Every sensible person will stop worrying about the definition of a woman and start talking about these hate group laws. Nothing in Australia is more pressing right now So share this video with your friends and family and help them understand.
Okay, so it's pretty obvious that this government is absolutely against democracy right now. Now, I'll see if I can find Thomas Sowell's last statement. Just bear with me for one moment. Well, it looks like I can't share that because it looks like it's been scrubbed from X, but I can pull that up on Telegram. Just one moment, please. Well, I've told a lie. I did find it on X. They just deleted the upload that I did to X. That's all good. I've at least found a source so that people can hear what Thomas has got to say. All right, well, without further ado, here we go.
My name is Thomas Sowell, and I represent white Australians that are fed up and angry with what successive governments have done to this country. If you've watched the news today, you will know that Tony Burke and the Prime Minister Anthony Albanese have listed white Australia as a prohibited hate group. They've done this not only because they hate white Australians and they wish to punish white Australians, and that they use mass immigration of third world people into our country as a weapon against the founding stock demographic. But the timing of it is just as significant. You see, only a few weeks ago, on April 25th, on Anzac Day, we registered a white Australia political party with the Australian Electoral Commission. Although we filed this paperwork with some letters from our lawyers stating that we've also put in a High Court appeal to the current laws that may be used against us if we try to file a political party. You see, Australia is meant to be a representative democracy, meaning that Australians of all walks of life, regardless of what their versions of history are or what their favourite colours are, they can participate in the parliamentary process. And so we have filed paperwork with the High Court as of today. I believe that ASIO was aware of this. That's why they recommended on Anzac Day, on the 25th of April, that we were continuing to organise. And it's why today, of all days, they decided to prescribe us. This lines perfectly with our timeline for our announcement that we were going to create a political party that will represent white Australians who are currently being ethnically replaced by their government. This ties in as well with the US State Department and what Donald Trump in the United States has put out, that the UN and international NGOs are responsible for a great replacement. Something that we have been told for many decades now is simply a conspiracy theory and not happening. The reason why the Labor Party and the Uni Party wishes to remove us from Parliament is because they do not want to debate our ideas and they do not want to compete with us within Parliament. Instead, they wish to criminalise us and use the police force as a mercenary wing of their party to crush opposition. The other reason why we are a threat to the system is not only that we stand in the way of the great replacement of white people here in Australia, but also because we wish to free white Australians from debt slavery. We do not believe that it is ethical, moral, or economically sound to impose debt on people in the form of interest for them to own a home. We wish to give Australians a home loan that is interest-free, just like the Anzacs and just like the Commonwealth Bank initiated at the turn of the century and the founding of this country. We want to free Australians from permanent debt slavery so that our children and our grandchildren can have a future here. Now, if our High Court injunction fails, then the fate of liberal democracy dies with the fate of white Australia. And you will be able to say to your grandchildren, you were present when honourable men tried the peaceful method of resisting a government that is hell-bent on the destruction of our people. Thank you for listening, your patience, your support, and for caring about this journey so far. And I hope this is not my final address, but if it is, thank you.
So quite frankly, I'm disgusted where we are at as a country at the moment. We're a country, well, we were a country of white Europeans. We are demographically being replaced. Globally, white Europeans are now a 7% global minority. We are being ethnically cleansed. It's time to wake the fuck up. If you're going to be distracted by these pissant little stories about fucking tranny goblins, it's time to wake the fuck up. We have thousands of Australians now living in tent cities because they can't get accommodation anymore. Many are working full-time jobs, still can't get a fucking house. And we're worried about trainees going to bathrooms. We've got bigger problems. We've got a government that absolutely fucking hates and despises us. I think Aussies really need to get behind this court case that's coming up in September, because this will be the fate of the nation. Not only is government a traitor, a disgusting traitor, very open, but we're going to see if the legal system is also completely corrupt, just like our government. That's all I've got to say. I'm fucking disgusted. I myself have served in the military. I served to protect my people, my nation. Nation meaning my race, my people, the white European founding stock in this country. Not some fucking Indian or African who's decided to come over here for a free ride. As far as I'm concerned, the free ride should be over. Fuck off back home where you belong. That's all I've got to say on the matter. Okay, so here's the question. Are we living under a democracy? I'd love to hear your comments. Anyway, have a good one.